Welcome to the Boise Community Band's performance for June. The Boise Community Band is a group of volunteer local musicians that is open to members of all ages and backgrounds. We rehearse from May through August. Our members' ages span 8 decades. This year marks the 20th season for the Boise Community Band. This evening we would like to present our patriotic performance. Although not all selections would be considered patriotic, they certainly all focus on America. We would like to thank the City of Boise Department of Arts and History for funding our organization. We would also like to thank Grace Foursquare Church in Meridian for their use of their space for practicing this summer. I would like to present our director, Catherine Gardner. As we begin our concert, please rise and remove your hats for the playing of our national anthem. Here we have Idaho is the official state song, Idaho. The music was originally composed by Sally Hume Douglas for a song titled Garden of Paradise. Hume Douglas copyrighted it in 1915. In 1917, 2 students from the University of Idaho used the music for their entry in a campus song contest, and it became the alma mater for the University of Idaho. Here we have Idaho officially took its place as the state song during the 21st session of the Idaho legislature in 1931. The lyrics were written by Albert Tompkins and talk about specific landmarks, towns, and what it is we love about this great state of Idaho. Please enjoy. Here we have Idaho. House of Freedom was a march written by Carl King in 1920. It has been one of the most popular marches for bands like ours to play. Carl King is well known for his rousing circus marches, challenging the performers' musician prowess and pushing their technical capabilities. We hope you enjoy Hosts of Freedom. America the Beautiful is an American patriotic song. Its lyrics were written by Catherine Lee Bates in 1893, and its music was composed by church organist and choirmaster Samuel A. Ward in 1910 at Grace Episcopal Church in Newark, New Jersey, though the two never met. The version we'll be playing today was arranged by Carmen Dragon, who is an American conductor and arranger who, in addition to live performances and recordings, worked in radio, film, and television. His son was Darrell Dragon of the Captain and Tennille, who were popular in the 1970s. Please enjoy a great arrangement of America the Beautiful. Next, we would like to present Bugler's Holiday. Bugler's Holiday was composed by Leroy Anderson in the summer of 1954 at his home in Woodbury, Connecticut, intending it as a fun piece to showcase the veracity of trumpet players. It was premiered on December 31st of that same year by the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. Bugler's Holiday was originally written for 3 trumpets, and band is considered one of the most famous trumpet trios. Trumpets featuring tonight are Bethany Hansen, Jim Hayes, Malaya Josang, and John Lawson. Please enjoy Bugler's Holiday. Next, we would like to honor all the branches of the armed forces by playing all their theme songs. You will hear Caisson Song of the U.S. Army, Semper Paratus of the Coast Guard, the U.S. Marines Hymn, the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Navy's Anchors Aweigh, and the brand new theme that you've probably never heard, the song for the U.S. Space Force. When we get to the branch of service you were part of, please stand or raise your hand. We will now play Salute to the Armed Forces. Marines. U.S. Navy. U.S. Air Force. And when you've never heard of U.S. Space Force. U.S. Coast Guard. Next, we would like to play for you Variations on a Shaker Melody by Aaron Copland. In 1967, Copland arranged Variation on a Shaker Melody from a selection of his ballet Appalachian Spring as a short concert piece for bands and orchestras. Appalachian Spring was written in 1944 as a ballet. It tells the story of a young frontier couple on their wedding day. Created as the war in Europe was drawing to an end, the ballet captured the imagination of Americans who were beginning to believe in a more prosperous future, a future in which men and women would be united again. We now present Variations on a Shaker Melody. West Side Story is a 1957 musical based on Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. The music was written by Leonard Bernstein. He had a total of 732 performances on Broadway before going on tour. In 1961, it was released in theaters as a movie. Included tonight are I Feel Pretty, Maria, and Tonight. Please enjoy highlights from West Side Story. play for you American Salute by Morton Gould. This is a tribute to all things American, based on When Johnny Comes Marching Home. Morton Gould develops and embellishes the folk melody with splendor and verve, and the transcription by Philip Lang is a challenge well worth the effort. Please enjoy American Salute. Our next piece is George M. Cohan, Patriotic Fantasy. George Cohan was an American actor, popular songwriter, playwright, and producer, especially of musical comedies. Cohan was awarded Congressional Medals of Honor for his patriotic songs, and in the 1950s, his life was documented in the film Yankee Doodle Dandy. Included in this presentation are Yankee Doodle Dandy Boy and Your Grand Old Flag. Ladies and gentlemen, we now present George M. Cohan, Patriotic Fantasy. piece is The Stars and Stripes Forever by John Philip Sousa. John Philip Sousa penned this piece in 1896 to honor the passing of his closest friend. According to Sousa, it was divinely inspired. On December 10, 1987, The Stars and Stripes Forever was named the official march of the United States of America. John Philip Sousa played it at almost every concert, and so the Boise Community Band plays it at the end of all of our concerts. Our next concert will be Wednesday, July 16th at 7:30 p.m. right here in Julia Davis Park. Please join us. This will be our Christmas in July concert. And our last concert of the season will be Wednesday, August 13th at 7:30 p.m. We will be playing several theme songs from Western movies and TV shows. And now we end with Stars and Stripes Forever. Thanks for coming.